Not the first time with this variety. About 5 years I planted some seed. It was a different variety. It didn't say Polish, and I forget what it was, but the mice liked it and ate it to the ground. I only tried a small little plot for it, and didn't really take care of it. So this time I'm going to plant it in a more protected spot. And the seeds are so small, I'm not going to be able to just do like I normally do. I like to plant it in one seed at a time. I mean, I probably could if I really wanted to. See how small those seeds are there. I'm just going to broadcast most of it out into an area and then thin them out. I'll just eat the thins. I have a garden fence, and inside the garden fence I have a fence. And last year I grew beans in here. Actually cowpeas. And it kept the mice out of it until the very end of the season. One found its way in there. So I'm just going to take maybe half of it, and I'll plant half of this with this parsley, root parsley. First thing I did was I watered the soil. I didn't even plant the seed yet. It looks like I'm going to take about 1/3 of it. Now you have to keep in mind you only plant seeds of plants that can handle frosts this early in the season. It's April 2nd today. And you can't be planting corn or tomatoes or potatoes or any of that. So there are a lot of crops, a lot of cool season crops that you can plant right now. So all you got to look up is cool season crops. There, and I got the seed in here. I see a little avocado sticker. Probably not even going to be able to see them. They're just so little. I just scattered them around. There's one right there. Now the next thing I'm going to do is put some compost over the top of it. All it takes is just a flash of sunlight and a little bit of moisture like this, and they're already beginning the process of germination. Now the other thing that you have to consider that I'm planting on April 2nd is we've had a very mild winter, and we have a long stretch of, the 10-day forecast shows nothing below freezing. And, by the time we get in the middle, the 10 days, middle of April, we're getting to the period where even if we have frost, they aren't that cold. And if we do, I can always put a row cover over. But I'm betting we aren't going to this year. I'm seeing what's happening up at the Arctic. The ice is melting away, and that's basically our refrigerator. And I don't think we're going to have very many really cold winters anymore. There'll be probably a couple oddball winters once in a while that are really cold, but I think by and large it's going to be warmer than normal. And so I'm in here planting early. And now I covered the seed with compost. My very beautiful high carbon compost. Next is another little watering. That's it. In the same bed I'm going to be planting Salsify. Right here I've already wet the soil. I'm going to plant it sparsely because I also want to plant radishes with it. This is what Salsify seed looks like. Planted. I'm going to put the compost over the top. There you see a radish seed. See if I can find there is a Salsify seed. So I can see some of them. I got a little bit away from the row. That's okay if they grow really close together. The radishes are going to be out of here in between 60 and 70 days. So now we got a very thin layer of compost over the top of the seeds. Next is the watering, and that's it. And we'll see what kind of germination rates we have. If it's not that great, I have more seed. Do you really want to know what a Salsify is? I might not even be pronouncing it right. But we're going to dig one out, and you can see. right here. It's got a lot of roots growing out of it. That tells me I got plenty of nitrogen. Let's see what this one looks like. This is a little more traditional. Not huge, but it's food. Okay. That is white mammoth Salsify. This whole bed has them in. This one here is probably a big one because that's sticking up there pretty good. I already got some, but yeah, you can see this one's definitely a lot thicker. And that's what I found, is you don't get really good uniformity out of this. Some are big, some are small. This is the bed that I just prepared for a warmer season crop. And I noticed that the black Salsify, or as it's pronounced here, I think, Successional, can handle frost plus likes heat. And I'm going to plant a mixed planting of Successional and avalanche beets. And the beets are going to be done quickly. So within 60 days, I'll be picking beets. And hopefully I'll be picking beets for a good month out of this bed. And the Salsify, or the Successional, the longer it's in the ground up here, the thicker the roots get. And although you can harvest the greens, the leaves for greens, which are very nutritious, and I know that because the rodents and the woodchucks will eat that before they eat anything. You can use it in your salads. And if you don't harvest the leaves too badly, or not at all, and you wait until just before freeze up, there'll be some nice thick roots that can be harvested. So I'm going to stagger plant both of these two together. And in 60 days, I'm going to begin the harvest of the beets and make room for the black Salsify to continue growing. Now that's planted. You can see the Salsify seeds are planted in a staggered row. You can always get a few more plants out of a staggered planting. And then in amongst this, I planted a lot of beet seeds. And right there's one right there. There's another one right there. And those I'm going to be harvesting way before the Salsify's done. Oh, that's a leaf. And this whole bed now is filled with seeds. And now I'm going to put a little compost over the top, give it another watering, and that's it. See what happens. Everything is an experiment. Always and forever, because this planet is successional. It's always changing. So keep that in mind. All planted. Now if we start getting, hot house conditions for the summer, let's say 100-degree temperatures day after day, you can always remove one side of this. And I'll just put up a hardware cloth to keep the mice out. But if it's just a day or two and I can see in the forecast it's going to drop back down into the 80s or something, I'll just leave her go. See what happens. And you can tell plants begin to suffer. They wilt a little bit. I don't know. I'll watch the plants, and plants will tell me what I should do. Alright, another finished project. This is how I overwintered the French shallots. I do it with the potato onions too. What it looks like in the bag. Hard as a rock. I leave them in my basement. My basement is about 60 degrees. They're in a wooden cabinet, and they're on the bottom shelf of the cabinet, which is just an inch off the basement floor, so that's a cool spot. These things are hard as a rock. I've been really liking these French shallots more than I'm liking the potato onions. So I like the color. And they do have a little sharper, flavorful taste. So I'm going to plant French shallots in this wide open bed. I can see a mouse is starting to dig into this skirret right here. So I'll go ahead and harvest these 2 skirrets. I don't think they're going to be much. I might just transplant them. Everything else I'm going to get out of here. And I'm going to start the planting. I'm going to get this far. I'm going to start from the far end. Then I'll stop and clear this out. French shallots are in the ground. You can see I did staggered rows. One row would have 3, the next would have 4, the next would have 3, the next would have 4, and you can see I could stagger them. So here's this row, and then I staggered the next row between those 2. In the front are the smallest ones. I don't know why I separated the smaller ones from the bigger ones. Probably I can harvest these earlier and eat them right away. And these would be for storage, but we'll see how they grow. We have plenty of ground moisture right now. I don't even think I need to water it. We got all next week is going to be cloudy with periods of scattered rain. Perfect conditions. 50s during the day, 30s at night. It's going to get a good start. So now I got to find a spot for the potato. I'm not going to have a full bed of potato onions. I'm going to scatter them around. And I'm about to plant here where I had those avalanche white beets that are really sweet. And look here's one that's growing. And they're hybrids, so I don't think the seeds are going to be much, so I'm going to harvest this. It made it through the winter. Oh, that's a parsnip. How'd I have a parsnip over here? Oh, that's even better. Oh, good. Okay, something hatched. Good. We like bugs around here. Feed the birds. I dug out these skirret and we had a pretty nice harvest. So I'm going to clip these off and then I'm going to replant these crowns. I got another spot I'm going to put some skirret. So that's nice. This one here I won't clip anything off. That one's perfect just the way it is. And I'll leave some of the smaller ones on. Oh, I don't know if this one had it. Oh, here's one small one. Here's a small one. Oh, I love it. On that knob of the bed, I planted gray shallots. I tried it for the first time last year. They weren't prolific. I didn't really like them all that much. They had a really nice color. They had these really stringy roots, like wires, little wires. But I had kept a couple back for eating, and they tasted wonderful. So I'm going to try them again. These are French shallots from that green broken piece of steak all the way to the end of the bed. Staggered planting. Then this little bed right here is potato onions. This bed over here where I had those white avalanche beets planted last year is now planted in potato onions. In this little cage I planted turnips. In front of, actually I should mention that I planted those skirret shoots that I just dug out. I planted them along the wooden fence here so that this area here is going to thaw out before everything else next year, and I'll be able to harvest those skirret roots early. And in front of that where the water is, I planted rat's tail radishes. Rat's tail radishes also went in along the fencing part of this part. Nothing is here yet. And there's the bean harvest. I picked the pods yesterday. And now I'm going to go and ferment these beans. And in 3 days they'll be ready to eat. You have to be mindful when you ferment these beans that they're going to swell up to twice their size. If you put them in a pint jar, you only fill a pint jar half full. Or any kind of jar. Whatever the space is, only half full. And it'll fill the whole jar up. Even got some of these Christmas beans in here. I might save a couple of those fat ones. I don't necessarily like these too much because they're not very prolific. This one here is just a crazy prolific bean right here. So I'm spending my space on that. All right, thanks for watching.